Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another exciting episode of the Flappcast, Behind the Funny, where we find out what goes on behind the scenes at a comedy club. I'm Barbara Holliday, co-owner of Flappers and booker.
I'm Joshua Snyder, comedian and promotions director at Flappers.
And we have a very special headliner today. He has a delicious name. It sounds like my favorite. I guess it's a vegetable, corn on the cob. Please welcome Nick Cobb.
That would be 1B. It's I always say Cobb salad. That's what I always say.
Oh, Cobb salad.
Because otherwise people will say, "Are you related to Ty Cobb?" And that's not a relationship with someone that you don't want to have that. Just some degenerate racist. I don't want to be associated with him. But with a great salad, that I'm okay with.
People always ask me if I'm related to Billie Holiday.
Oh, right. And?
Well, is this on YouTube right now? You make the choice. No one gets that joke.
I don't.
No.
No.
I'm sorry.
Please tell me one person gets that. Well,
I think I get it.
Do your research, people. That's all I'm saying. Okay.
I think I get it.
But to the listeners, I sound jamming. So you're originally from Memphis.
Yeah, man. Originally from Memphis.
You don't sound like a.
I made a conscious effort when I went up. If you were to listen or watch some kind of home video when I was 7, you would hear it. And if I'm drunk, or if I'm talking to my dad, or if I'm giving directions, or especially if I'm drunk, talking to my dad, giving directions, the accent definitely comes out. But otherwise, I made myself talk normal, and now I regret it. I wish I had it back.
Oh, it's a good angle, but it kind of makes you sound a little small town.
But in
right?
this
But
industry,
Memphis is big, though.
Well, it's less than 1 million, I would say. They don't know how to do comedy there. That's for sure.
Oh, really?
Yeah, no. I mean,
why is this? How did you start?
I started. There was a Looney bin there for about 5 minutes, and they had an open mic every Wednesday night, and it was before a real crowd. It was before a real show. I remember when Dave Attell did Insomniac. Remember that?
Yes.
We did one before that. And
tell people what that was, though, because I don't know if a lot of
Insomniac
people
was
know.
a great show when Dave Attell would go and do a show in a city and then basically interview drunk people, like in our case, out on Beale Street for the whole night, and he's hilarious.
Yeah, and that's all. It was total improv, and
He was unbelievable. And you watch someone like in this shit club, right, in Memphis's shit club, where audiences don't understand comedy, to see Dave Attell go up there and just obliterate with really smart stuff when they're used to pandering stuff. It was amazing to watch. But the club closed about 2 weeks later, and I used to perform. There was a casino in Tunica, Mississippi, and you know how at a casino they'll have a buffet line and they have the rope, for old people to follow. We got so few people that they would move the rope so that the end didn't end at the cashier. It would end at the entrance of the comedy room, and so they would just bring their food into the comedy room. It was terrible. It was terrible.
They were trying to build an audience for you, right?
Yeah, I mean,
Like
I'd say it was never
force-feeding an
more than
audience?
4 people.
Oh, wow. But you majored in psychology.
I did.
So what prompted you to get into comedy? I mean, were you like, I don't want to be a what did you want to do with a psychology degree? I mean,
I didn't know. It was
Really?
just something. I did work in it first. I did use the major for like 3 months, but it was only to save money. I used to interview people in jail, which was interesting. And then I went to Australia and was like, just kind of had an idea, like, man, I just want to see what it's like. That's all it was. I just want to see what comedy is like. And so then I jumped on stage.
an open mic.
That's what it was.
Do you remember one of your first jokes?
It's too embarrassing.
Oh,
man.
tell us.
I remember my first set. We were supposed to do 3 minutes, and I did 6. I didn't know what the light was.
Right.
And I did something about, it's so embarrassing, being on the toilet and running out of toilet paper and having to crab crawl over. And I did this act out of crab crawling. And I would kick off my shoes. I remember kicking off my shoes when I was on stage, kicking them over to the side. And then talking about how I got toilet paper when I was on the toilet from my mom. It just doesn't. It's, oh, God.
Well, at least you wrote about what you knew.
Pardon?
You wrote about what you knew.
Yes, that's what I knew.
There's definitely some psychology behind that first bit.
I think
That's
that was
all I
my-
have to say.
I think that's what I first talked about. It was terrible. Or it was, maybe it was
So why, how did you know you want, give me a little more about like what gave you the bug? Like, so Did that first open mic, you're like, man, this is it. This is.
Well, like I said, the open mic was in front of like a real crowd. It's something that I never would have, like later when I went to New York, I didn't know how good I had it. It was in front of a real crowd. And I guess I just got a buzz from it. When I was a kid, I wanted to be a professional speaker.
Oh, there's the secret.
Yeah,
That's
my dad's neighbor was a motivational speaker, and I'm like, that's awesome.
What was his
job? And then later on, a motivational speaker opened for me at a college, and I watched him, and I'm like, that is the easiest thing. It's just a stand-up set without any punchlines. You can just be so unfunny, but you're killing. You're not bombing. That's what I wanted to do as a kid, and it just kind of like, it just transitioned.
What would your motivational speaking like be about? Just was there a what was it? Do you remember the name of your dad's friend or your neighbor?
No. I mean, he did corporate motivational speech. I didn't have any plan or anything.
Right? You're just like, I just want to be a powerful being on stage. I want everyone to listen to me.
I found it very exciting to do a public do a speech.
When you see a great speaker, it's like it seems easy, right? You're like, oh, I could do that.
Yeah,
everyone's gonna be motivated by me.
I just thought I would run for class office just so that I could give the speech.
And did you win?
Yeah, I did win.
Oh, were you your class president and all that?
No, I ran for class secretary. I didn't want to do anything.
Oh, I see.
I wanted
just
the least amount of competition possible.
What was the job description for class secretary?
There was no job. I mean, I think you just write stuff down. I think that's it. You just go to a meeting and take minutes. That's it. But I did at one meeting. I remember my girlfriend's ex-boyfriend was running for office, and I made a motion so that he would not get it. It was really catty and shitty at me. And then he got me out of class later on and asked why I did it. But it's just I just wanted to give the speech.
So you graduated with a degree in psychology.
Yeah.
You do an open mic, and then you're like, I'm moving to New York, just like that. I'm going to be a stand-up.
I went to Australia, and then I came back, and I did a few open mics. The club closed. I did a few more at that casino in Tunica, and then I'm like, I'm just going to save money and go to New York. And that's it. That was it. And then I was there for 9.5 years.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize you were there that long.
Oh,
and
man, it's the best.
What do you think about the comedy scene there? I mean, it's changed a lot since then, but
I thought it was great. I mean, I thought that it was busy. Like it was like a friend of mine was talking about how he has a hard time staying inspired, but it's not just maybe because LA you have to drive so far and you have to, when you're really grinding it out in the beginning, it's more difficult. But in that way, it was easy because there was always a friend that you would call when you were at work at whatever stupid temp job you had, and they'd be like, hey, do you want to go to the 6 o'clock and whatever? Then do you want to go to the 8 o'clock and whatever? So in that way, it was easy. And
this is in New York. So you just, and you can actually do 3 to 6 spots a night in New York.
I would
really,
say I
right?
would, yeah. I mean, 6 is, I met a girl once who did 5 a night, and that's, I remember Jim Gaffigan saying on a podcast he did 5 a night. That's crazy to me. Because they're not just all in Manhattan. You got to go out in Queens, and I mean, you'd be up until 2 in the morning. I mean, I'd say I did 3 a night.
Right.
Yeah, but it's brutal. I mean, most of the time it's brutal.
What, your spots weren't good, or the audience was
Of course not.
tough?
No, they're horrendous.
Right, and they're tell us about the clubs there.
They're horrendous. I mean, the open mics were horrendous. They weren't. The open mics were certainly not all at the clubs. They were mostly at bars. I mean, they were terrible shows. They were awful. I mean, there was always like the game on, or the band was still playing, or if you were lucky, the band was just like taking apart their stuff, and that's when your open mic was like people come. The way I think about it is if you worked at like, what is the amusement park where there's like someone at the very bottom of an escalator, and when you're going down to see like Jaws come out of the water, they're doing crowd work. Do you know what I'm talking about? I felt like that's how it was for years.
And then, but you got on Gotham there. Was that after you moved to California and then got on Gotham,
No.
or you got on Gotham there?
I got on Gotham there. That was kind of my home club. I did a couple of early shows there and got in their good graces and started emceeing these 5 p.m. shows. I would MC 5 or 6 p.m. shows in front of 8 people, and I kind of at first comics are so afraid of emceeing, and I fell in love with
weird,
it.
Huh?
It is weird because there's a different set of rules for an MC. You don't have to kill in the same way. You just have to kind of get people excited about it and like
motivate them.
Yeah,
you just gotta motivate them.
For some reason, I was looser as an MC because it's like the standard is different.
Yeah.
And I had a ball emceeing those shows because you'd have 4 people there. You'd have like literally one comic's family would show up, and you just make fun of that comic for 10 minutes, and it was fantastic. Whereas with a regular set, I don't really like doing crowd work, but MC, it's so just fun.
And you don't have to follow anybody either.
Yes.
That's what I like about it.
Yes.
There's no expectations.
No, none whatsoever. You were setting the expectation right there. And in a way, you're helping the comics if it's a low expectation in that kind of a show. But one time, I don't know if it's okay to tell this story, but I'm gonna tell it anyway.
Yes, tell it. Don't.
So there's this comic there, and I'm not going to say her name. We were friends. She was very cool. She was a smart comic.
Let's see if I can name her. No, go ahead.
I don't even know if she still does it, but she at one point was involved in a car accident years before. And so she had a speech thing, right? And she addressed it, and she made fun of it, and she was great. She was great. And she went up, and she went first, and the crowd was great. And she did really well. And the second guy who went up was just a turd. He was just, I've never seen anybody treat another comic so poorly. Never. He goes up there, and he didn't like her. And he goes up there, and like I said, she had a speech thing. And I'm not making fun. This is really what he did, and I can't exaggerate it enough. He goes up, and he goes, "My name is Jason, and I got in an accident with the first comic. Horrible."
Love your Donald Trump impression.
Right, yeah.
Good job.
I've never seen a comic walk the staff. The bartenders left.
No.
Everybody left the room. And after 3 minutes, he came out of that little impression. And he goes, "I'm sorry, crowd. She and I are actually friends."
What?
Yeah, which they weren't. They hated each other. And then so he does his jokes for a minute, and then that doesn't work. So he went back into the impression. That is what you had to deal with as an MC. It was the worst thing I've ever seen.
Nick Cobb giving advice to up-and-coming comedians.
Yes.
Do you remember what you said when you came back up after all of that?
Yeah, I did a joke about 69. That's what I did. I was like, let me try to do something so different.
Not like anything they're saying.
Yeah,
right.
It was just mean.
So you never actually took any comedy classes, or
I did.
Oh, okay, because
I did.
You're not 100% self-taught there.
I guess, but I learned. I took a class that was 7 months long when I moved to New York because I wanted to have like structure. But it wasn't just stand-up. It was acting. And improv and all this stuff.
What was that?
What was it called?
Yeah.
ACI, the American Comedy Institute.
Oh, really? There's actually. Well, I always love finding out about that because classes are great. You make friends and meet people who do other things.
I did meet friends who I'm still friends with now, and that was the best thing about it. But it's weird when you're taught by someone who never did comedy.
Oh, that's tough.
I wouldn't try to teach you how to play golf. I mean, you know what I mean? So I felt like a lot of his teachings were from the 50s or 60s, or, I mean, all of his stuff was like, hey, when Don Rickles was... Or actually, that's a bad example because he's great. But someone from the 60s, he wasn't up to date.
Have you met Mindy Rickles, Don's daughter? She's doing comedy here now. Isn't that great?
No, but I heard it because my nanny is friends with Don Rickles, and she told me that Mindy Rickles is doing comedy. I'm like, man, that is a tough act to follow. God bless.
There's tons of celebrity comics whose kids are right in that age range. Like Karen Knotts, Don Knotts' daughter, is here doing comedy.
What?
Did you know? Yes. And
I love Don
Camilla
Knotts.
Cleese, John Cleese's daughter, does comedy. Did you know Camilla? You've met Camilla.
No, but what's the... I mean, I never remember her
And
name.
Will Schreiner's kid is doing comedy here. PJ Bayo is cousins of Scott Baio. I was thinking we need to do that Ancestry.comedy show again. We're going to do that. We're going to set up a show. Isn't that fascinating?
I'm trying to remember a comic in New York who, she'd be mad if I forgot, who was the daughter of the Jewish comic who would be like, hey.
You got to narrow it down.
Jewish
You
comic.
really got to
hey.
hey.
Larry
a Jewish man gesticulating with his hands.
Jerry
You gotta
Seinfeld. Larry David.
He was
Jeff
in
Garland.
Caddyshack 2. He was in
Bill
Caddyshack.
Murray? No,
No,
not
he was a
Jewish.
stand-up. Jackie Mason.
Jackie Mason.
Okay.
Sheba
yeah.
Mason. Sheba Mason.
Sheba
is
Mason's been here, actually.
No, really?
Yeah, she does
man.
comedy out here.
She's been in
that's
New York
another
for
one
years.
for our ancestry. We have a good. I'm going to do that show
I like that
again.
name, Sheba.
Yeah.
It's a good name.
Yeah, a
I
Jewish
think she
name.
still lives in New York, though, but she
I'm
comes
sure she
out every
does.
now and then. And
I wonder
Yeah.
if it's short for Bathsheba, because I think that's the full name.
so wow. But when did you start making money, or being a professional, or are you married? You're married.
I'm married. Yes, I'm married.
Is your
Stop
wife
it.
a comedian?
Yes, but not. We did meet doing stand-up, but she's
Aha.
not still a stand-up.
Ah.
She's into sketch now, but she did it for about 6 years. We met on a show, and I just kind of walked over to her, and she had her set list out, and I was just like, "That's all dog shit. That's all terrible." That's kind of how I got my foot in.
Oh, way to
Just-
impress a lady,
Yeah,
Nick.
it's terrible.
I'm
It's- I'm
sure
not-
that. Yeah.
I'm not proud of
She
myself,
jumped
but it
all
worked.
over that. It does. It works.
But when did I get paid?
Comedy Couples. That's my other show. Comedy Couples. Do you know how many Dave and I met doing? I mean, everybody. I know so many comedy couples.
People always say don't date another comedian, but at least they understand the lifestyle.
Yeah. Right. She doesn't think you're out cheating on her
No,
when you're
I mean
out
that's
doing.
still is a
I mean,
fear that
even
she
if
has.
you are cheating on her, she doesn't think you're
At least
cheating
I'm
on
doing
her.
sets.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
What was I about to say? The first time I got paid was probably one of those MC spots, but there were always Elks Lodge kind of shows.
Something came up, little ditties here and there.
I did for like 2 years before I got past the clubs. I would do these gig masters shows, these birthday party shows in like
You went-
backyards and shit.
People don't know. Tell people what Gig Masters is.
Gig
everyone.
Masters, at
Gig
least at the-
Salad. There's all kinds of them.
Gig Salad?
Yeah, there's another one called Gig Salad.
I know there's Gig Mama or something like that. Or
So
Mama.
there are these websites that you can log on to, and
Bid.
people post opportunities like corporate events or casino or my kid's bar mitzvah or
Yes.
whatever. There's all kinds of weird
And you
shit.
bid on them.
Yeah, and then artists get to submit themselves.
Yeah. At the time, I was one of like 3
They're like
comics on it. And it was great because we all got paid pretty well because there was this unwritten rule of like, hey, we're not doing it for any less than because these gigs
Did you all
are
know each
terrible.
other? Yeah, they're
No.
shitty. And
they're awful.
God.
I mean,
a bar mitzvah outside in someone's backyard or,
I did a Ferrari club once. A bunch of people who had Ferraris, and the dude called me up 2 days later and complained. 2 days later, he called up and complained. He's like, "You weren't like how you were in the video."
Oh.
And I had to go.
How were you?
And I had to go into the supply closet of my day job at the time at Citibank. I had to go to my
Take the
supply closet
call.
and defend myself. It was.
Tell us how you defended yourself.
I was like, well, that was a TV show. Yours was in a conference room with round tables and no microphone. What do you want me to do? He's like, well, the jokes weren't as funny as you weren't on TV. And I'm like, let me just repeat what I just said.
But
it
you
was brutal.
learned then next time to ask and set up the event a little better, right?
Oh,
Because I did a gig once for a bunch of old lady women business
awful.
people, but they basically, when I showed up, it was 5 round tables of women, no microphone, no stage, and literally when it was time, we were eating dinner and everything, and I was just socializing, and I was expecting, I said, maybe we're going to go into another room or something like that, and then they're like, oh, and here's Barbara ready to do some stand-up, and then you have to stand up.
Oh, God.
Hi, everybody, and you're right?
It's the worst. This is the worst I ever had. I had the day job, and I left. It was a day, actually, when there were massive layoffs. And so
At Chase, you said?
at Citibank at the time,
Citibank.
massive
Ooh,
layoffs.
excuse me.
And I had to
Sorry,
set
banks.
up when people were getting laid off. Yeah, you need to get your
Huh.
you need to
I
get
just
those
throw
straight.
them all in one lump sum.
Kind of deserves to be. But I took a 3-hour lunch break and went out and did something in Jersey for a crematorium convention.
Oh,
They all got together in a huge conference room, and
that's where they make sour cream, right?
Right,
Oh,
right.
okay.
Yeah. and he was in the middle of their fiscal review, and he was like, "We're not doing very well." I don't know if that means like
How do
not enough
you-
people are dying or something, but
Yeah.
Please tell me the conference was called Burning Man.
and
Thanks, Chris. Okay.
then he goes, he's like, "Okay, this is our surprise." After he just reamed them out for 20 minutes, he goes, "Now we have comedy."
Creamed them out.
Creamed
Sorry. You're setting us up for so many good puns.
It was awful.
That is weird. But they need cheering up if they work in around death all the time.
Yeah, but
right?
they don't know. They don't want to hear about whatever my dating situation was.
How do you up the numbers on that? What more commercials?
More serial killers. That's
Tired of
Please,
coffins.
People die. Please, we need more death.
That was terrible.
It's good for business.
Yeah, he was really upset. I mean, you're walking into a room of a guy screaming at people, and then he's like, okay. Now comedy.
And now comedy
Yeah.
show.
A friend of mine did an Elks Lodge show for a benefit for a police officer that had just fallen. And right before he went up, they had a picture of him, on like an easel.
Dead.
And they sang and then did
alive, but he was dead.
Yeah,
right.
alive in the picture, but dead in real life. Yeah. And then they're like, okay, now comedy.
Well, that we've had fundraisers here, and the fundraiser is generally it's for something tragic that's happened, whether it be veterans, so kids with brain cancer. I mean, there's been all kinds of things, and gotta tell you, it's consistent on fundraisers. They always ask to show the picture or video of the subject before the and I tell everyone, no, please. It's a comedy fundraiser. Maybe at the end, that's when you do it, right? Like at the very end, after you've had all the laughs and made all the jokes, then you say, and thanks for coming tonight and donating all your money, and this is what we're here for. And then leave crying. But don't start out crying.
At least you have it here. I feel like if it's on a comedy club's turf, it's going to be 10 times better. But if you do that same show in a high school auditorium, forget it.
Yeah,
it's you're dead man walking.
Oh my gosh. Well, teenagers are so emotional anyway. They're, right? Teachers and have you actually performed at high schools?
Yeah, I have.
Oh
I did one in
God.
upstate New York. Oh, here's one. I got called and asked. I've been doing the Gig Masters thing for a while. And I got called and asked if I would do, you know how sometimes when kids graduate, they take them back to the high school and have like an all-night thing so they don't go out drinking?
Right, yes.
Right. So they said, can you do a show from 3 to 4 in the morning?
Yep.
And I was like, where? Because I just out of curiosity. And they said, we're going to be a skating rink, and you'll be standing in a corner of the skating rink while they're skating. We'll make them sit down maybe from 3 to 4 in the morning. And I said, I'm not going to do it. You need like a ventriloquist or something like that. That's what
juggler.
That exactly. Yeah. And so they call back a week later, and they're like, everybody in the PTA thinks that ventriloquism is witchcraft. Because Harry Potter, they're so upset about it. And I was like, well, how much were you going to pay the ventriloquist? And they said $1,200. I was like, I'll do it. I will bomb for $1,200. And I took 2 friends, my wife and a friend. And my friend did the opening 20 and bombed for 20. And then my wife did well, and then I did well. But it was not comic gold.
Right.
Really?
Yeah, but you still made $1,200.
Well, I made less because I had to
But
pay
did they complain?
No, they did not complain, but they never exactly had me back either.
Right. Well, see, that's the big problem with those gigs, like on Gig Salad and everything. It's like everyone's an event planner. They all think that they know, and then they're just bringing. Comedy's a very intimate, art form.
Yes.
It works much better in an intimate space, and there has to be concentration on the performer. It's a conversation, so we have to be able to hear each other. And generally, outdoor gigs in closets. Like I said, I've seen everywhere. But I, as an agent and manager now, I won't let people do it that way.
Like you're setting up to fail.
Yes, I've told people who call for a comic, I go, it's not going to work. And they just argue with you. They really want it to work because they just think they know.
They all say the same thing. They're like, if you're funny, you're funny. And I'm like, no, it doesn't work like that, dude. I've done wedding receptions where they had me stand up similar to what you were saying.
Yeah.
It just doesn't. The only time it worked was when they made them sit in a certain area, and I did nothing but crowd work.
Yeah.
Because that's what I learned. When everyone knows each other,
it should be about
they do
them.
not want to hear about material.
Right. Mm-hmm. Well, that's good. Corporate parties we do here, that's what I tell everyone. If someone's coming for a holiday party, they're celebrating themselves. They are. They want to talk about their work, and they're all coworkers and issues, and if you can do that and make it about them. So you've done a lot of corporates now.
I did.
You're working all over the place. You got on Comedy Central.
Yes, I did the Live at Gotham. Yeah.
Live at Gotham, but then you were also on Last Comic Standing too.
I was like 6 months after that. Yeah.
Which was amazing.
Yep. It was crazy.
It was great. And did
Thank you.
that helped get you a lot more
It
gigs?
did and it didn't. It's weird because it does certainly, like when you walk in to a show at that point, you went from not having any credits to you know how it is when you're like, tell them that I opened for a feature act, at one point to like having legitimate credits.
I saw Dave Attell once.
Yeah.
That's
I went to Chuck E. Cheese last week, like just nonsense to like legitimate credits, and that did help. And then I did a Late Late Show after I got here, and that helped. But there's you always think there's gonna be a point where you can just kind of chill, and that doesn't exist.
Oh, yeah. I don't think I gotta tell you, it was my birthday yesterday.
Happy birthday!
And I'm telling you because last night I went out to dinner and I have some amazing comedian friends who came out to support my birthday. Christopher Titus and his wife Rachel, they're good friends of ours, and they were there to support me, and Michael Rayner and Jose Barrientos. But it just reminded me when you said that, like, Titus is one of the hardest working comedians, and Rachel, his wife. He just produced his own movie, and it's just it never stops. You really have to keep. I mean, you look at someone like that and you think, wow, they have had a sitcom and everyone knows who he is, but he's still you have to keep working.
Talk about a guy with his own style. I opened for him at Caroline's, and he was back in the green room writing.
Yes,
writing.
Always working. Always working.
I was like, you're so prolific. What's your writing style? And he gave me the best advice. He's like, let's say you're driving on the highway. After like 45 minutes of staring at the white, dotted line, you'll probably you may think of something really creative or funny. He's like, that's how I approach writing. I sit down and I write crap for 45 minutes, and then something good will come out. And he goes, I've been doing it for so long that it takes me about 20 now. But you have to kind of like blank yourself. You know what I mean?
He was on our podcast giving that same advice.
He did?
Great advice.
Yeah.
That's you have to weed out. You have to pull out the goal. I mean, you have to put something out there to get something, to find something.
You got to be willing to write crap.
Yeah.
And that's still really, really hard for me. Like the first line has to be genius.
I was going to say, what is your process for working out new material?
Now now that I have a kid, it's
How
very
old?
different. 13 months.
Oh,
she's very sweet.
A kid. It's funny. When do you stop saying months? Like when
I'd
does
say
it become
2 years, maybe?
Really? It's up until.
I don't know. This is my
Yeah.
first one. Ask me in
Okay.
like 2 or 3 years.
Good question, because 13 months. It's like, and then I have to go. Oh, that's a year and 1 month.
Yeah,
Okay.
you got to do that hard math.
1 year, 1 month.
I would say that I like to do a bullet point kind of thing. I would usually email it to a friend.
Oh.
I'll email back and forth because I always found that like that was the closest to conversational that I could get.
Do you
Was it-
tell them that you're sending a joke, or you
Sure.
just okay?
Sure. I mean, they're comics mostly, and I'll
Right.
be like,
Hey.
"What do you think about this?" And I'll go on some kind of a rant, and I certainly don't keep all of it, but it's the closest that I can get to like it. I can notice if I'm writing something in a Word document versus writing an email. Even if I don't send the email, I notice a difference in the tone, in the casualness.
More
about it.
conversational.
Yes.
I've
That
never
is how I
heard
do it.
that one before.
Interesting.
That's how I do it.
You have an online, it's like your own online email writing group. I like it.
Yeah, but only one person at a time. Yeah.
How
yeah.
often do you feel that you? Because I know in the beginning you were getting up. You said like 3 nights a week, or three times a
Yeah.
night. Are you still at that level, or?
No, I don't do 3 times a night, again, because of a kid. But it's, I would say that 3 times a night, you get exhausted. You're such a grinder then that you don't, like, what do you have new? Like, what life can you experience
There you
that
go.
you even have to talk about? So I did that for a long time, and now I'll do, a few shows a week. But every show I have something, I at least have something small new. And it means so much more when you have a kid because you're like, just get me out of the house just for an hour. So it really, like, the shows mean so much more now. So much more.
And your wife, she doesn't have the desire to do stand-up anymore at all?
Maybe she goes back, she flip-flops all the
Yeah.
time. She
yeah.
flip-flops all the time because she's like, I used to talk about garbage. Now I have something legitimate to talk about. And I'll be like, yeah, but you got to really want to do it. It's not something that you, like when people are like, oh, I did it once, I'm a comic. It's
That
yeah.
happens all the time.
Yeah, right.
Do you know how many comedians we have in our database, Josh?
3,000.
100,000.
I thought
I'll say
it was
3,000.
I thought it was 4,000. So you're right on. But Ken, our dean of comedy, we're working on producing some comedy specials and
Oh, really?
yeah, and picking out comics and material that we've already taped that we thought might, work. 12,000 comics in our database.
That's so depressing.
I knew
So
no one was
depressing.
going to. 12,000. How do I? That means I have personally probably touched or talked.
Good news for the crematorium.
I don't know how many of them are still alive. That is a good point, Josh. Thanks for bringing that one up. In fact, what happens if they are deceased? Should we actually delete them from the database?
Well, at best,
Or-
they could only feature.
That is so depressing.
Bada boom. That's a lot. Think about that when we're booking, right? Like, have you produced your own shows and
Yes,
done a little
I
of that?
hate it. I hate producing.
Yeah, it's hard to. Well, you always book somebody, and then someone else is always asking you to book them. You know what I mean? Like, it's a
Yes.
never-ending, and people don't really care about who the booker is at all. They're just a machine for getting someone else something. They really don't give a shit about. They act like you're all important, but they really don't care,
No.
right?
And I love it when people who you are not famous in any way come drop by the show like, can I do 5?
Yep.
I'm like, I don't even know who you are. I don't know who you are. I don't even know anyone that knows you. Why do you think you can just drop in and do 5? No, you can't. I can't.
What is this,
I have
New
so
York?
much respect for
No.
producers who also perform on their shows. But speaking about 12,000, I used to have a
Well,
manager.
I don't perform anymore, thank goodness. I can't. It's
don't want
too
to?
No, I like being behind the scenes, but I have performed.
You're the
and
only
I've
human
teached.
that likes being behind the scenes.
Really?
I think so.
Oh, I'm still very involved with comics and writing, and I'm always talking with comics about their material and, that makes me feel like I'm as involved. I mean, we do this podcast. This is kind of a
Yeah.
sense of a little
It's
bit.
performing.
I guess it is. Only we're not getting huge laughs. Of course, there's no one in.
She
the
over there has
crowd to
laughed a few times,
actually
but she
laugh at
covers
us.
her mouth and
We
she's
do have a
eating.
few viewers. Oh, good. Well, that's good.
And this gentleman just
People
just
should
walked
be
up.
eating while they're watching us. Then they won't have to, worry about the laughter.
Standards are low.
But
I used to have a manager who would talk about how he was like, I never had to do an open mic. I never. My third show was at the Concord, this huge theater. And I'm like,
Yeah.
but that's 1981. Don't bring that shit
Was
in
it
here.
different?
You know what I mean? Like, you didn't have to do an open mic because there were no open mics. Because there were more shows than there were comics.
Yeah.
And yet he would brag like it was because of his
That
talent.
has shifted. You are 100% right. There are obviously 12,000. I didn't even know we had 12,000. I'm stunned by that number.
There have got to be some random audience members in your database.
Well,
Got to be.
I'm going through the list. It's a stack. It's like an inch thick, and of just names. And I'm going through and highlighting. And there are a few so far. I'm about halfway through of maybe some that are agents. Got kind of mixed up in there because maybe they did a speaking thing or something. But a lot of them are actually comics. I'll
At least
tell you.
11,500.
I'll tell you on this podcast in a few weeks when I'm done going through the list how many are actually real. And I would tell you probably maybe I could cut out 1,000.
I wonder how
Maybe.
many of them do it more than once a month.
That's a good question. We're rewriting our website and our database. If you're listening, you're going to see a new Flappers comedy website because it is a lot to manage all those people and all the shows and all the avails and comics sending you.
How many avails do you get a week?
Oh, I was just telling my partner Dave this. How many would you think? Take a guess, and then I'll tell you what's real.
I'm gonna guess 200.
200 a day?
200 a week.
A week?
All on Monday?
And how many do you think? He's guessing.
No, I'd say it's way more, 200. If we're talking about in just 1 week span,
Yeah.
I would say you probably get 1,000.
I can count 100 at least a day emails.
Wow.
Of avails. And then on Mondays, yes, people call. So how do you get back to all those people?
I
know.
think this is the way that I used to book. When I booked a show, it was always, what show had I done recently and which comic stuck out in my head at that time? That's it. And people always think there's some kind of magic. No, it's just there's way too much to deal with. And like, oh, yeah, he did a good job.
Right.
She did a good job. Great. Are they free?
Yeah.
Cool. I haven't had them on before. That's it. That's the only thing.
But that's such a good point to make, because that top of mind awareness, like what stood out about the comic. My partner and I are always saying, like, if I can remember one joke, you know, or one premise that somebody did, that's sort of my rule. Like, you have to remember, like, oh, he did the stuff about being a dad. Or, you know, he did the stuff about the cars or the gluten-free food or just something.
Well, that's 12,000 that you have to remember.
I know. But we should go on this podcast once. We should literally just go through the list, and then we can make comments on what we know about the comic. And then we can count how many comedians we actually know.
I would bet it'd be under 200.
You think?
Uh-huh.
Okay, it's a challenge.
I'm
Mark that down. We're recording.
5 bones.
We'll let you know the episode.
I'm bad with names. I'm better with faces. Can we get pictures?
Nick thinks I can remember 200. I challenge you. $5 if I can remember more than 200?
No,
Okay.
I think it'll be 200 or less.
200 or less. Okay.
Because I don't want you to
I
be
take the
dishonest.
challenge.
Yeah, fair enough.
I'm taking the challenge. That's going to be one of our episodes.
I'm willing to take that $5 in a 3-minute spot and a Guinness.
So now you're starting to talk about obviously having a kid and being married, and your material is changing. What are your plans? Are you looking to get into television, or are you writing your own stuff?
That's
you
so
just
funny that you
tour?
say that. My dad, I've been talking about this on stage. My dad said the same kind of thing, because he doesn't have any understanding. But he comes from a place of not understanding, where he was like, Nick, if stand-up doesn't work out, are you going to go into acting? And I'm like, I don't think that's how backup plans work, man. Like, usually your plan B isn't more difficult to accomplish. And that's his. But I think that who was it? Patton Oswalt said a long time ago in that Comedians a Comedy special, where he's like, we do TV so we can do stand-up. And I think that's still the attitude, if you can get the gig. If I can do commercials that helps me to continue to do stand-up and put food on the table, I certainly will. Or obviously a television show.
But are you working on stuff? Are you writing your own platform or thinking of that? Or
Yes. I would say I'm thinking, I probably have 1 minute a day to myself. So I think about it more.
That's a lot of time. Less is more.
I'm always brainstorming, but I need to execute better on that end. Yeah.
So you're doing clubs now.
Yes.
Primarily. But you
Yes.
can't tour much now. You have to stay at home.
I probably do.
Are you a
one
daddy
month.
mommy or a mommy daddy, or what do you call it?
I'd say we both are, because we both have weird lives. So we're always kind of like this.
Your wife has a job?
No, we both have like
Performance job.
We both just audition and stuff. And so like I'll have my daughter, and I'll be heading to an audition, and I'll drop her off. I'll be like, hey, meet me. It's so sketchy. It's like a drug deal. I'll be like, meet me at the CVS at Wilshire and whatever. And then I just like take her out and put her in my wife's car. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And drive off. Yeah, it looks really skeevy. It looks really skeevy.
Is this actually my baby right here? I'm just make sure that's actually, because you can trade them off at CVS, you know.
Oh, yeah, you can.
Right. You
Get your flu
20%
shot,
off.
trade them off. Yeah.
Get your coupons and switch them out. Wow, what an interesting challenge now. You don't feel
really
the urge
difficult.
to go back to psychology or get that
Of
day
course you
job.
do. If there's a dry run, of course. But I could see myself quitting a lot of things. I could see myself quitting auditioning, and all these. I could never
have an
see
agent?
myself quitting stand-up.
You have a film and TV agent?
Yes.
Yes.
Kind of.
Yeah, kind
It's
of.
my brother. No, I do. Kind of. Yeah. I have my film agent is actually in Wilmington, North Carolina, or South, because all these films are like shot out south. So I do all that stuff, all those auditions on tape in my apartment, and I shoot them over.
It's a big thing now. Everyone's doing that now.
Yeah, we've got a lighting kit, but commercially it's all here. But yeah, I could never see myself quitting stand-up, even if I just went to go like teach history somewhere or something.
Right.
I'd still do stand-up.
Well, you're performing here when?
Tomorrow night and Friday night. And I think I have a couple other dates that I can't reel off the top of my head.
But
I'm
you're
really looking forward to Friday night. I think that'll be a lot of fun.
You're headlining just Friday only, not Saturday. Okay.
Friday only.
So
which is our birthday weekend.
it is.
Exactly.
I was just about to go. Tell him.
Yes.
We are turning.
6 years old.
Is that
What?
months? How many in months? How many
Any months?
Well,
That would be 72,
72.
months. There we go.
Good job.
There we go.
Ooh, backwards math.
Yeah.
72 months
Yeah,
old.
I can't believe we're turning 6. It's
I know.
crazy.
And it is free admission.
We give for our birthday. We give you presents.
That's right.
We give free tickets to the community. It's
Really?
our only weekend throughout the year that we do that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Unless I'm headlining, and then they do free tickets again.
Oh,
I'm
sorry,
really looking
we
forward
forgot
to
to
it.
tell you that,
Yeah,
Nick.
door deal, but it's all free.
Right.
But we
right.
were able to
No.
get the crematorium people to come see you, so that they'll.
They loved me the first time.
Yes.
God, that was brutal.
We'll
and it was in
see.
the back of the pamphlet too. It's like in the back page, and comedy. Oh,
Well, we have some other great comedy news going on right now, though.
Let's hear it.
Our Melissa Villasenor, who was actually scheduled to headline here next weekend, but for very good reason cannot be here because she just got selected as a new cast member on SNL.
that's sick.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
She's the first
we had-
Latina cast member.
Yep, we adore
that right?
Melissa.
Yep.
Yep.
good for
Dave
her.
and I actually booked her. We were doing shows at the Ice House, and
Uh-huh.
Melissa was 17 when she first came in and auditioned. She did our Uncle Clyde's comedy contest, and she was doing impressions. And I remember specifically saying to her, because when you're young like that and you're doing something, you sort of have this idea that like you don't want to be doing that anymore. Like, yeah, I just want to be a stand-up. And I was like, keep doing impressions. I said, there's no female impressionists.
I can't think of any.
None. There's not. I'm not a real impressionist. And of course, she has continued to do those impressions and still does, but it's not her only thing.
Right.
But now it's definitely going to be the thing because
That's
I mean
awesome
she
for
does
her.
Bieber and Owen Wilson and just she's amazing vocalist.
Yeah,
so
you don't see many female comics in praise.
Nope.
That's really true.
no,
And starting at 17, that's what I'm jealous about.
Yeah.
I wish I had started that young.
she's gonna make SNL great again. You watch, people. Watch SNL again. Don't give up on it because Melissa Villasenor is definitely one to watch. And she went on to do AGT. That gave her a little bit of a
Oh,
boost.
yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
she went pretty far on AGT and had a big blast there, but then kind of came down again. But just you know what? There's an example. That young lady, now a little bit older, but is in the clubs day and night. She did every spot.
awesome.
Never worried about money. Always just working on the act.
I'm really glad to see
So.
AGT becoming more comic friendly. Years ago, before I did Gotham, I got asked, I was just emailed out of the blue, will you do
Producer.
AGT? And I was
Yeah.
living in New York. And I talked to my friend. I was like, I don't know, man. But that time, the comics never did it. And he's like, what can it hurt? So I took a red eye out, like a Thursday night. I got to L.A. 2 hours later, I called in sick from my day job in New York. And then I showed up. And there have been times where I've walked on stage and been like, I'm pretty sure I'm going to bomb, walking on stage. It's the only time where I've walked into the green room and known I was going to bomb, where it's just like two people who were dressed as sheep. There was a woman who played like a cello that was
God.
on fire. That
You
I became.
knew.
I was in the green room for 16 hours.
It's not the right setup.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
terrible. It's 3,000 people who were there. I went out, and the guy before, the producers gave this whole pep talk like, hey, if the judges give you shit, give shit right back. Of course, knowing that you're going to look like a dick. And when you're arguing with the judges. So the guy before me called himself Prince. He did Prince music. He had half his teeth. Like, literally, he would show off. He had one half, like the right side, but not the left. And so he went off on the judges, and he got booed off. And I go out there. And the thing was, with comedy at the time, like, you go out there, and they ask you questions, and then they say, go ahead.
Yeah, it's
Which
weird.
it'd be fine if you're like a drummer or something.
Right.
But you're a comic, and so they say, okay, go ahead. And then you just stood your setup line. I started getting booed within 5 seconds. And I got booed so bad that they started lighting their lighters and doing the wave. So it was this weird miscommunication of like, I don't know if you love me and want me to do an encore or if you want me to get off the stage. It was the most bizarre way of booing.
Well,
So-
it's a terrible setup.
I was there.
comedy.
So I
Yeah,
started
yeah.
to leave, and a producer was like, hey, can you do me a favor? And when you're walking down the hall, look really sad.
Aw.
And I said, sure. And then they would go, okay, we're recording. And I skipped down the hallway. And so I got out of it. And they didn't show me.
Oh,
It was terrible.
You didn't do what they told you to.
No, I did not. It was the worst.
Mm-mm.
Nice.
It was brutal. They gave me $40, and I spent it on
you
a
actually
double
got-
Jameson.
They don't pay anymore.
They got to give some kind of per diem or something.
No, they don't pay anybody. No.
No?
No. Nope.
Spend it on
You
booze.
just, you don't even make money if you make it far. But anyway, that's a whole nother story. But we were talking about SNL. Hey, we also just have a few more minutes to cover some things, but I was going to talk about, we wanted to do our new segment called I See Dumb People.
Yeah, let's do it.
Josh is writing. He's writing his own theme music. So I See Dumb People is a collection of little stories, letters, memoirs we receive from guests, from comedians, from employees. And this week's Dumb People story is related to our holiday party season. I won't name employee members because they're not here anymore. But I actually gave my staff a stack of Christmas cards, and I asked them to put Flappers return address labels on these Christmas cards. And I was very excited. A couple days, it was like really quick. I got like 400 envelopes back, and all of the return address labels were in the center of the envelope. Therefore, we were going to mail all of our Christmas cards to ourselves.
That mailman had an easy gig, man.
Yep. I guess I found out that the millennial generation, I don't know, I guess they don't mail things anymore. Like, does
It's
anyone
important.
mail through the U.S. mail? Anyone?
It's important to love yourself, and we did that.
Right. Yeah, we were just
200
giving
times
it
over.
back. So,
Wow.
any advice from listeners, please write in and tell me how I should deal with that situation.
And please make sure you don't put your return address on the front like they did.
Right. Is that worth firing over? That's the question. Wood scruples? What? Huh? What do you do?
I don't know, it depends
How
on
do
the
you deal?
employee. I guess.
Firing.
No?
It's kind of like it's kind of one of those mistakes where you're like De Niro in Casino when he's like, I can't trust you. So if I can't trust you, then you gotta go.
This
It's kind
isn't-
of like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
You could
Well.
make them just hand deliver all of them. That might be a good.
Well, I did make them hand take off all the stickers. We actually had to put a label on top of it, and then we had to print all the new labels. But anyway, that's what I See Dumb People is about. Have you have any dumb people stories? Fans writing you information?
I drove back when I used to drive for Uber, and I ended up
Oh.
driving somebody who was at a show home because it was really humiliating. And at one point, but the show went well, and he asked me, he's like, so are you successful? And I'm like, well, I'm driving you to Santa Clarita right now with a guitar in my backseat. No, I'm not that successful. I thought that was kind of a dumb thing for a fan to say. Yeah, I thought that was kind of dumb. And then anytime my in-laws come to a show.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
What do
yeah.
the in-laws say? They're not comedy savvy, or
No, they've lived in India
Do they
for like
give you
9 years.
oh.
And my father-in-law, this is gonna get gross, but he's got these toenails that look like they're like an Asian currency or something. And he puts his feet. He always wears sandals, and he puts his feet on the stage. And I can't help myself but tell all the comics, like, take a look at that when you're on stage.
Oh.
Just take, and you can't. He looks like he's always photobombing. That's kind of how it looks. It's revolting. But they always ask a lot of questions. And then also, like, as a comic, you're doing so many shows, and you put them up on Facebook and stuff, but you don't expect anybody to reply. And I'll put up a show that is just a show. It's not a TV taping, and he'll respond, and this huge thing on my Facebook, like, I hope that show went really well. I'm like, it's at a karaoke bar. Like, it doesn't.
I hope you get a big deal out of that
go,
show.
go back to whatever squatters camp you've been living in for the past 9 months.
Oh, it's just hard. It's hard, with these stories. I'm collecting a bunch of these letters for my books and little stories for the I See Dumb People book, and it's really hard. We try to talk about what goes behind the scenes here at the Flappcast, but it's very difficult to actually say what you really want to say.
I've got one right here.
Yeah.
If I can, you got to give me a minute.
Okay.
I was up in, I'm not going to say where I was, but occasionally, a
Wait,
comic.
see, we're already restricting ourselves.
I
Come
was
on.
in Minneapolis.
Okay,
so
perfect.
sometimes, a comic will come up to you and be like, hey, can you not talk about police? Can you not talk about this? Can you not talk about that? And you're like, okay, fine. So this guy I knew, I was friends with him. He comes up to me before the show. I'm not making up any of this. He comes up to me before the show. He's like, dude, my best friend's in the audience. He hasn't been out of his house in like 2 months because his dad died. So if you do me a favor and not talk about death, I'd appreciate it. I'm like, I'm so sorry to hear that. I don't have any jokes about death. Hang on, hear me. So then like 5 minutes later comes over. He's like, I'm going to be totally honest with you. My friend's dad was murdered. Do me a favor and not do any jokes about murder. I would really appreciate it. And I'm like, my God, I'm so sorry to hear that. I have no jokes about murder. I'm really sorry to hear that. 10 minutes later, he's about to go on stage. And he comes up to me. He's like, I'm going to be totally transparent with you. My friend's father was dismembered. If you do me a favor and not talk about dismemberment, I would really appreciate it. And I'm like, who the fuck has a joke about dismemberment that does not have a joke about death or murder? You could have led with dismemberment, and I could have filled in the blanks that it wasn't like of natural causes or anything. But nobody goes up like, oh man, my dad's arms and legs were taken off, but then he got a job as a buoy, so it all worked out. Like,
you know
like
what's really funny
that
is
was the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard in my life.
Oh, that is.
In a show. Yeah.
Yep. We don't get
That's
a sound
true.
effect for that, Chris. Oh. That was my thank you.
That's what that sound effect is for that?
Yeah. My phone, by the way, just started like recording you when you were saying it. That was the beep there. It's Siri liked that story.
Nice.
So now I've written that down. I'm gonna add that to the dumb people book. Okay.
That's the weirdest thing. It's really the weirdest thing I've ever heard at a show.
Yeah, that is strange.
Yeah.
And the comic wasn't good, right?
I almost feel like he should have then come up to you and said, listen, totally transparent, I'm the one that dismembered him.
Oh, that's the finale. Whoop whoop.
No. I would say that I think that he was just saying it because obviously he didn't have to say that.
Yeah.
That's not something you would have to tell me.
No.
No one has a dismemberment joke. But I think he was just saying it because he had never told anybody and it was like, hey, this is my chance.
He needed to vent.
He needed to tell someone just told you his father's dismembered. You want to tell
Right.
somebody else.
Right before comedy show starts. That's
Right before
the
you go up.
Perfect time.
Yeah.
Well, we're running out of time,
Yes.
so we gotta wrap it up. So Nick, tell our listeners where they can find you on Facebook, Twitter. Of course, you're here at Flappers headlining this weekend.
Yes. I'm an NM Cobbler. For some reason, I use that.
NM Cobbler?
NM Cobbler. I don't know why I picked it, but it's too late to go back
Like you're
now.
a shoe guy or something. I don't know. Cobbler? No?
Right.
No?
Thank.
No?
I don't know why that took
Does
me
anyone
so
Or
know that
dessert.
term? Oh, or a delicious dessert. Let's use that.
long. But yeah, Facebook, Twitter, all that
It's
stuff.
NM Cobbler all across the board?
And I'm pretty much across the board, yeah. And I'm here at Flappers tomorrow night and Friday, and then I do like a wine show in Oxnard or something.
Oh.
That's the letdown. That's the hangover.
Can anyone find it if they want to go drink wine in Oxnard?
I think it's on Facebook, yeah.
Oh,
if you're out in
a
Oxnard,
wine show?
sure.
That sounds fun.
Oh, yeah.
You
A lot
get-
of wine shows
If you
can
like
be
wine and Oxnard.
fun. Then come out.
That's an oxymoron, kind of the thing. I don't know. Or an Oxnard moron.
Oxnardian
no, sorry.
moron.
That's what that's where you put the
Bad
sound effect in,
puns.
was there.
Okay.
So
We
so-
don't have Melissa Villasenor night or
no.
this weekend.
Well, in Claremont, by the way, we have
Yes.
DJ Demers this weekend.
Oh, DJ Demers, who called me while we were on this podcast.
Yes,
He did.
phenomenal.
If he makes it from Canada,
Oh,
he's Canadian, and he just got his green card. Only he just literally called me today and said that they were supposed to have mailed the green card, like it's supposed to be there, and he's getting on a plane tomorrow. And he may not have his green card to get over the border. So we may need a last-minute headliner fill-in.
I see.
But DJ Demers, amazing, hard of hearing comedian, was just on AGT, did really well this year. You should check him out if he's there.
If
he's
he's
there. Yeah.
Check our website in case we fill in someone else.
Check the
Right,
Vancouver
and then
airport.
next week in Burbank,
You can fly to Canada and see him. Okay.
next week in lieu of Melissa Villasenor, who had to cancel due to awesomeness,
Yes.
Uh, then we have Taylor Tomlinson.
Oh,
from,
she's fantastic.
Last Comic Standing
Made the
and
top
Last
10 of
Comic.
Last Comic Standing last year.
It's unbelievable.
Yes.
Host
So
of laughs.
Her
Very
writing
exciting
is
there.
fantastic. I've seen her
Yeah.
twice, and I don't think I've ever seen anyone that young that is that mature on stage. I've never seen it.
Yeah.
She's really great.
And I mean, yeah, you don't, especially in the women category, if I may say. I'm not saying women aren't funny; they are, but Taylor is really, for as young as she is, a very strong, bold female comic.
Yes,
you know?
absolutely.
I don't know why I just said female. Just
No,
because
I'd say
her name
across
is
the board, she's the
Taylor.
youngest
She
that I've
is.
seen.
She's amazing. You must must check her out, and you really want more than 5 minutes on her. She does a great headline set.
She's just really, she's an interesting person. And
Yep.
usually someone who's younger doesn't have the experience to speak. You know what I mean?
I'm going
But
to pitch
she-
her for the crematorium.
Do it.
That's
Do it.
that's the
A
gig
lot of
that
people have
she-
died this year, so they're going to be a happier crowd.
All right. Well, thanks, everyone. We're going to wrap this up because we've got an audition to do because we need to add more comics to our 12,000 comic database.
That's right.
Thanks for joining us on another episode of the Flappcast. Don't forget to download our app, the Flap app, where you can get deals and discounts you can't get anywhere else, and celebrity alerts. I think Bill Burr's coming soon. I'm just giving a little tease, but
I saw him once here. It was
Got it.
awesome.
Yeah. He's teasing me about coming back. So get our Flap app so you can get those updates. Any other announcements, Josh, before we go?
We're all good.
Okay. Thanks again. I'm Barbara Holiday.
I'm Joshua Snyder.
Thank you, Nick Cobb.
Thank you very much for having me.
We're out. All right.